Hi there, my name is Linda King and I'm one of the contributors to Modern Ireland in 100 Artworks. I'm a design historian and as such I look at commonplace everyday objects and images as a way of contributing to history and maybe understanding history from a different perspective, looking at areas that may have been overlooked or undervalued. I'm based at the Department of Design and Visual Arts at the Institute of Art Design and Technology, IADT, in Dún Laoghaire in County Dublin, and I also sit on the board of the National Museum of Ireland. As a design historian, I have a couple of areas of interest, one being modernism, the other being Irish design, and the other being design for the aviation industries. The piece I'm going to read for you today, which is the entry for 1955, ties those areas together, and it's the Aer Lingus Summer Timetable designed by Dutch designer Gus Millet. So I'd like to read that for you now. In January 1956, Aer Lingus's publicity department forwarded one of the airline's posters to the Arts Council. Entitled Dublin, it comprised a highly stylised illustration of Ormond Quay. It was designed by Dutch designer Gus Millet. Although the British journal Modern Publicity had described the poster as representing the very best of European publicity material, Arts Council chairman Patrick J. Little wrote to Aer Lingus's general manager J.F. Dempsey, stating that the council thought it had very little artistic merit. He further suggested that Aer Lingus should first consult with the council before embarking on activities of this nature. Dempsey's reply explained that the success of commercial publicity demanded compromises with sheer artistic effort, and declined the offer of consultation, stating that time rarely permits us to delay production that usually has a degree of urgency. At this time, the Arts Council's remit included design development, but it is clear from Little's comments that it had scant understanding of contemporary advertising strategies. The chain of correspondence indicates why a Dutch graphic designer was designing for the country's most glamorous semi-state company in the first instance. The publication of the Christenbury Report in 1951 by the Department of Industry and Commerce influenced political opinion on Irish tourism development. Gathering Irish and American expertise, it stated that tourism was key to the country's future economic growth and was adamant that substandard advertising was a barrier in targeting lucrative European and US markets. Within a year of the report's publication, Sun Advertising, a Dublin-based agency, began importing graphic design expertise from the publicity department of Dutch airline KLM, specifically to work on its Aer Lingus account. KLM's promotional strategies were exemplary by international standards, and Aer Lingus had ambitious plans to expand, including the establishment of a transatlantic route. Millet was the first designer to arrive from KLM, enticed by competitive salary, scenic countryside, and a break from the social unrest that defined post-war Holland. Other designers soon followed, including Jan de Vouw. An example of Jan's work actually is behind me here. It's a poster for Aer Lingus from 1957, advertising travel to Holland. Piet Sluis, Gerrit van Gelderen, who went on to make the RTE series From the Waters to the Wild, Rhys Hook and Willem van Velsen, among others. While Millet left Ireland in 1956, these others made Ireland their permanent home. Working for Sun, they designed thousands of posters, press ads, timetables and brochures for the airline, and Aer Lingus became a de facto tourist authority, promoting Ireland as a destination in parallel with its own services. Millet's summer timetable is typical of the approach and aesthetic for which the Dutch designers became known. Formerly trained in Holland's design schools, they blended European modernism with contemporary American illustration styles. Typically, their work combined sans-serif typography, grid structures, bright colours, bold shapes, and visually condensed, complex levels of information. Given complete autonomy by Aer Lingus and Sun, the Dutch design force focused on what they perceived to be unique to Ireland and of interest to potential tourists. As exemplified by the summer timetable, they took familiar motifs, lakes, mountains, cottages, castles and fishing boats, and represented these within a visual modernism that was radical even by international advertising and tourism standards. Millet also designed for the An Tostal Festival and for CIE, while his compatriots worked for John Hind and Bord Fáilte. rejecting the more hackneyed imagery typical of Irish tourism publicity at the time, and generally avoiding painterly aesthetics. Their work was revolutionary. In essence, they introduced professional graphic design practice to Ireland and established patterns for the promotion of the country that lasted for decades. The summer timetable is also featured on the front cover of Modern Ireland in 100 Artworks, which is free to download until the 31st of May. And I think that looking at this work in the current climate of lockdown, we can only fantasize about travelling in the future in the same way as a lot of Irish people looking at Aer Lingus's buoyant, exuberant tourism publicity in the 1950s could only equally fantasize about using their services. So thank you for listening. If you're interested in another aspect of Irish design, I also contributed the essay on Sybil Connolly and how her work was featured on the cover of Life magazine. So Sybil Connolly, the Welsh fashion designer that came and worked in Ireland and was extremely successful and well known internationally. Thank you for listening. Stay safe. Goodbye now.